Well, hey, Volley Academy, I'm so glad you guys were able to check into this session. My name is Dr. Ed Garrett. I'm a certified mental performance consultant through the Association for Applied Sports Psychology, and I've been a volleyball coach for many, many years, as well as a volleyball official. I played the game, so I understand what it takes to overcome the obstacles that you are challenged by in your game. And so I'm happy that you chose this lesson. We're going to apply some psychological practice to this to give you that mental edge that you're seeking to be able to control the internals and overcome those obstacles. So if you're ready, let's get going. Some of the objectives that I definitely want to be able to cover in this session for you are really, we're going to discuss the obstacles that we face. We're going to go over some cognitive obstacles that might exist. We're going to try to kind of differentiate between the different types of anxiety that really come from those obstacles. Anxiety reduction is always going to be there, and then being able to cope with those obstacles. We're never going to be able to get rid of them. But for you to progress from good to great and great to elite, as far as a volleyball athlete, you're going to need to know how to really kind of harness that, control those, and be able to overcome those obstacles that you face. We face so many different types of obstacles in the game of volleyball. We got the fans. The fans are they're big obstacles sometimes, especially if we're playing at a place that's not our home turf. We've got the court. We might be playing at a different site, different location. We've got the opposing team. They can definitely be an obstacle, try to get inside our heads. And then we got our family. I love that old photo there, but really sometimes mom and dad shouting from the sidelines can be an obstacle. Or whether they're cheering for you or just, oh man, why isn't she or he doing better than that? They can be an obstacle as well. We need to find ways to overcome that so it doesn't sit so deep inside our mind. So what mental obstacles do you face on a regular basis? I want you to spend some time and really kind of process that, think about that, and kind of go, you know what? Well, let's see. Maybe my coach, maybe just me personally. I put a lot of negative thought inside my head in regards to the way I play or the way I perform. I'm never doing as good as I think I should, but all these negative thoughts creep into our minds, and they tell you to believe things that aren't really true. Okay, so how do we regulate that? Because it really comes down to arousal. Okay, and compared to non-athletes, I put that down there. Elite athletes see their anxiety really more as a strength than something that cripples them. Okay, they want to facilitate it. They want to take care of it. They want to manage it, and it's not something that just breaks them down. They thrive off of the anxiety. They thrive off of stress. And as an athlete, you're always going to have certain levels of that. That's never going to go away. But how you manage those things is what we want to get to the nuts and bolts of, the bottom of. Okay, so many times the obstacles we face first originate in the mind. They're cognitive. So we think it becomes true. And I'll give you an example. You might be around somebody that's sick. They just have a cold, and you're around them long enough, and maybe you don't find out they have a cold till about the very end when you're about ready to leave. And so you go home, and all of a sudden you notice you're not feeling very well. You might even have a fever, might even manifest a fever. A lot of that happened because you thought it first. It might not be true that you actually have a cold. You just were around people, so you naturally started to believe it. You brought it in, and you made it true. Okay? If we can control our minds, our thoughts, then we have the power to control our obstacles. Those that exist on the external, we can make the choice not to bring them internal. By controlling our obstacles, we develop the mental strength to overcome stress and anxiety. If stress and anxiety are one of the small things that are an obstacle to you and causing you not to play to the performance level that you know you can, then overcoming those is exactly what we want to be able to do in this lesson. So overcoming obstacles means that we first start to address what? Two different anxieties that I want to cover here. Going a little deep within sports psychology, but follow me, okay? Somatic anxiety is the physical symptoms of anxiety, such as butterflies in our stomach. We all get those. Doesn't matter what stage you're on. Maybe you're at nationals. Maybe you're at a big high school competition, state, or whatever it might be. We all get butterflies. But again, the elite athletes understand those. They appreciate the butterflies, and they know how to use them. They know how to give them wings and make them fly through the competition, for a lack of a better term. Then you got the cognitive anxiety. This is the mental manifestation of anxiety, okay? Or the specific thought process that occur during anxiety, such as concern or worry. Now, I put worry down there because more through my practice, I see a lot of athletes that really are concerned, or they use the word worry. I'm worried the coach is going to take me out. I'm worried I'm not going to perform as well. I'm worried I'm not going to perform for my team. I'm worried that I'm not going to perform for my parents. Understand this. Worrying is a useless emotion. Yes, Dr. G sharing with you, worrying is a useless emotion. It's something you create. And we create it because we believe something's going to happen. Worrying is a useless emotion. There's a vast amount of study and research out there that shows that probably about 95, 99% of what you worry about never is going to come true anyway. We just manifest it in our brain. Well, if we can go the negative side of worrying, doesn't that logically tell us that we can go to the positive side of not worrying? So here's the question for you. Why do we choose to worry? On the court, why do you choose to worry? So if you're worrying, don't you have the power to not worry or unworry? Think about it from that standpoint as we progress. Okay? So somatic anxiety. Let's start talking about this within reduction and progressive relaxation. Within progressive relaxation, you want to learn to feel the tension of your muscles and then to let that tension go. And a lot of it comes down to just breathing. Now, I write down there with somatic reduction with the breathing control. I work with a lot of volleyball athletes, and I'm always amazed at how they don't process the simplicity of just being able to breathe. I want you to think about this. Next time you're on the back line and getting ready to serve, you all have your routines, okay? And again, I've been in volleyball for 30 years. I've seen a lot of different routines on that back line as far as how you get ready for your serve. But the one thing I want you to consider when you're serving or about ready to serve is taking a deep breath. And what I want you to do is we can practice this right here. So I want you to make sure that you're always taking something away from the lessons I'm giving you. Very simply, you can just stand there on the court. I want you to breathe in deeply through the nose. And then a full exhale through the mouth. All the way. It's not a fast breathe. It's a slow breathe. Now remember, you've got several seconds to serve that ball in the back line. I mean, you're back at the back line before the official even beckons for a serve or blows the whistle. So you have time just to pause. And here's what I want you to do. After you take that breath, I want you to focus on that target. Where are you going? Who are you trying to serve at? What zone are you trying to hit? So you've cleared your mind of any negative obstacle, any sort of internal that you've taken inside by breathing. And then you find a refocus, and that refocus is your target. That eliminates, if done properly, that eliminates any negative thought, anxiety, stress, or worry. I want you to give that a shot, okay? So that's going through the progressive relaxation and then the breathing control that you can use with that. Now, from a cognitive anxiety, relaxation response. I put a picture down there of a beautiful beach. I'll share with athletes a lot of times. If I was to give you $10,000 right now to take a vacation. Now, you got to spend it all. Where are you going? Where are you going? I'll get athletes all the time go, man, I'm going to Italy, or I'm going to Greece, or I'm going to Spain, or I'm going to Hawaii. Wherever you want to go, I want you to picture that, okay? You quiet your mind. You concentrate on that image. Make it real. So if you're on a beach, I want you to close your eyes right now. I want you to close your eyes. Picture yourself sitting on a beach. What do you see? Be specific. Describe it. You see the ocean. You see the blue water. You see the waves rolling in. You might even see birds somewhere in the distance. A few clouds floating around. Now I want you to look to your left. Do you see any people sitting on the beach? Maybe there's a restaurant over there. Okay? Look over to the right. Are there people on the beach? Is it just, maybe it's quiet. There's nobody there. You can take yourself on a very relaxing journey just inside your mind through imagery. And it's that cognitive anxiety that will help you relax and eliminate or reduce the anxiety and stress that you feel. Simple meditation. So I want you to think about where your vacation spot would be, because it's very hard to frown or not feel a sense of relaxation and happiness when we're on vacation. So I want you to consider that. That's an easy practice, okay? So now that we have an idea of the cognitive obstacles that we face and that we are affected by them, what are some of the tools we use? Well, I've given you some of those tools, and they're coping mechanisms, whether it's breathing or mental relaxation, but let's go into some more, okay? Coping is the process of consistently changing cognitive and behavioral efforts to manage specific external and or internal demands or conflicts that arise as taxing or exceeding one's resources, okay? So there's two different types. There's the problem focus that I want to get into and the emotional focus. I hope you're taking good notes as always, because this is stuff that you will face out there. And if you don't understand which one you're facing, it's going to be hard to really kind of, well, manage it. So let's get into it. So we've got first the problem-focused coping, efforts to alter or manage the problems that are causing stress. Time management. Pause right there. If your game gets delayed, does that stress you out? Again, I was a volleyball official for many years through USA Volleyball and club, and I traveled and did stuff. And so there were times where I know that my game didn't start right at 9 o'clock or right at 10 o'clock because the game prior just was running long. Maybe they were going a full 3. And so it time management, I had to make sure I was there on time. But boy, then it wouldn't start on time and I would get stressed out. Okay, so that's one of those things that may cause stress, okay? Not hitting your goals. We went over goal setting. If you were able to go to my first session, we went over goal setting. Self-talk, we're going to talk a little bit more, and I'll elaborate on that. And then you got the emotional focused coping, okay? The internals, the way we can regulate the emotional response, okay, to the problem. Again, worrying is more of that emotional side from the inside out. Nobody, and your mother, your grandmother, your grandparents, or maybe even your dad used to share this, I don't know, friends, nobody can make you do anything that you don't want to do. Remember that saying? And so that's true because it's an external, it's something that goes on around us. We make the choice on how we respond to it from the internal, the intrinsic side of things, okay? So that being said, we use problem-focused coping when stressful situations can be changed, the internals. But we use emotional focused coping when situations cannot be changed. So the externals cannot be changed, okay? So problem focused, we deal with that, the stressful situations that can be changed. We can change the internals. We can't change the externals. And that's where the difference is, and that's where that lies within the dealing with the problem focused and the emotion focused coping. So where do we put this into picture? When you're dealing with stress or anxiety that's coming to you, you walk into a gym, you're playing an opponent that you know you've always lost to. And again, this is holistic. And what I mean by holistic is it doesn't just have to be about volleyball. One of the things I try to do is teach about life as well. What about taking a test? What about finals? What about getting your driver's license? Think about any of these stressful situations that we deal with on a regular basis in our life. We can use these same practices to address those as well, okay? Now, there is a couple of the caveats. There is no single coping strategy that is effective for all situations. You, as an athlete, must learn to develop a nice little toolbox of different ways that you overcome things. Okay. Again, in session 1, we went over goal setting. Here we go over obstacles and overcoming that with some tools. So Dr. G is giving you some tools from the sports psychology side of things that you must, as an athlete, you must become a professional at. And you must know when I'm going to pull those things out. Last back down there, what mental practices do you use? Do you use relaxation, prayer, music, imagery, self-talk? These are all things that you can use on a regular basis to overcome those obstacles. So when you're on site, we are on a volleyball court, we're ready to go. How do you overcome obstacles? Well, here's some simple things to think about. Smile when you feel the tension coming on. Take yourself back to that vacation spot. Find yourself at a moment where you can close your eyes and just experience peace, relaxation. And I always counsel athletes, as soon as you're done with that and you come back out of that, find a refocus and let that refocus be driven, be dedication, be something that you can really hone in on, i.e., standing and serving. Eliminate the stress, find a refocus, which is your target. That's where you're going. 2, have fun, enjoy the situation. You're playing a game. Remind yourself all the time you're playing a game, please. Set up stressful situations of practice. As a volleyball coach, I always used to do this because I wanted my athletes to learn how to cope with stress. If your coach doesn't set up stressful situations, maybe you could advise them or put it in front of them as just a suggestion. Hey, coach, I was thinking, you know what? We deal with a lot of stress a lot of times. Is there a way during practice where we could bring that stress to us so we know how to work with it? I think that's a valid suggestion. And as a coach, I would appreciate hearing from my athletes on stuff like that. Slow down, take your time. Too many times we rush it. I don't know how many times I've seen volleyball athletes really just blow it on the serving line. We never should miss a serve. Okay, at least in the net, we should never miss a serve. Now, if you serve it long or short, I never got mad at my athletes for that. Just from the standpoint that, you know what, make those passers question or think whether they're going to hit their, or, make the pass happen. Okay, so don't rush it. Slow down. Okay, stay focused on the present. Don't think about what you did 3 plays before this. The only thing you can do about the pass is learn from it. And there's no reason to look past this opponent to who's playing next, so don't look at the future. Stay right in the present. That will help keep your focus here and not too broad. Okay, and then come prepared with a good mental game plan. Never walk on the court without a goal. Never walk on the court without a plan on how you're going to overcome the hiccups that will happen during every competition. Okay? So, beyond obstacles, coping with emotions. So, I shared with you a little bit of imagery, okay? And within imagery, taking yourself to that beach or the mountains or wherever you want to go on a vacation. That's a great place, okay, to just relax and refresh. But also with that imagery, you can also start to visualize yourself maybe swinging and hitting a shot down the line for just a good kill shot. Well, take yourself in your mind and imagine that, okay? And make sure it's always positive. That shot's down the line and it's in. That shot's down the line and it's in. And just feel your body. It's getting the mind and the body to work together. And then you got self-statement modification. I brought up the word self-talk quite a bit. And here's what I want you to think within this lesson. Where do you talk negatively about yourself? Where do you talk positively about yourself? I want you to start, after you leave this session, I want you to start thinking about the times that you talk to yourself on the court, either positively or negatively. And so that'll lead me to a little self-talk training. Now, we all talk to ourselves. We have an internal monologue, whether we know it or not. But the fact that Dr. G is now giving you permission to think about or listen to yourself, you're going to be surprised when you're on the court next time how much you actually communicate to yourself. I put it this way. If your parents or yourself ever bought a new car, and you got in that car for the first time and you started riding around, what did you notice? Yeah, you noticed that everybody's driving the same type of car that you're sitting in. It's like, wow. I remember when I got my first Jeep, and I'm driving around in my Jeep, and it's like, did everybody buy a Jeep today? Yeah, I mean, it amazed me. But it made me think, what happened? Those Jeeps were there yesterday. What changed? My perception. Because I became a part of a Jeep, I started noticing it. The same thing happens when we're dealing with self-talk. You don't think about it. You've never given 2 seconds of a thought towards what you say to yourself, positive or negative. But now that I'm putting you in that new car, you're going to start to notice and go, wow, did I just say that to myself? Wow, I never noticed I tell myself that. So I go through something called the what, when, and then. I got a couple pictures of some journals. I purchased, for a lot of my private clients, I purchased those little black journals right there. But you can use a full journal. That's totally fine too. And I make it nice and small because I want them to be able to put it in their gym bag. I want them to be able to take it to practice. And here's what I want you to be able to do with self-talk. I want you to take a pad of paper or a notepad or a journal with you to practice when you go next, okay? And what I want you to do is I want you now to start thinking about what you say to yourself. Because remember, it first starts in the mind. And if we say it in the mind, we believe it in the heart. We make it real. So I want you to start to listen to yourself. What do you say, positively and negatively? There may be many times you go, hey, you did a great job. You give yourself a little boost, some victory. That's awesome. Do that. There's also more often, I would imagine, if Dr. G was a betting man, I would imagine there's probably times where you go, man, I stink today. I'm no good. Why am I even in the game? Those are things I want to capture because you probably have been saying them so long that you now believe them. They become a part of you and they're not true. No difference than worrying. We manifest that and believe that, but we can also change it. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, there are only two fears that we are actually born innate with. Two fears. The fear of falling and the fear of loud noises. We're innate. Those are part of us. So logic would tell us that all these other fears, man, I'm worried, I'm fearful that the coach is going to pull me out if I make an error. Man, I'm fearful that I'm going to let my team down. Carry it on. Logic would tell us that if we have manifest those, if we put those into our brain, those negative fears, then we can change it to the positive and eliminate those fears. So what do you say to yourself? Then I want you to think about, when do I say that? Now, these are all things that after practice, because of those journals, I want you to start writing these down. What do I say to myself? I tell myself I'm no good after the second passing error. Not the first, the second passing error, because that's the when does it happen. You need to be specific. It's like becoming a detective. I'm trying to figure out, and I'm trying to teach you how to decipher what you say, figure out when you say it, and then what are you going to do about it? Well, that comes to positive self-talk. So let's say after the second passing error, I tell myself, man, I'm a terrible passer. I'm no good. Now I know the what and when. So next time I go back into practice, the then is going to be when I make that first passing error, I'm going to continue to tell myself, you can do this. When I make that second passing error, I've learned that I normally get down on myself at that point. That's when I kick it up and go, no, you're not going to believe the negative, the anxiety that you put on yourself. You're going to focus on the positive and say, hey, server, give me another. I can take this. I'm going to overcome. You start to slowly begin to change the self-talk, especially from the negative. The same can be said from the positive. If you put away a really good, man, you just love a slide. And with the first ball out of the setter's hands, you bang it down the line, just a beautiful shot. And you celebrate, man, that felt good. Write that down. What went and then? Because the then is you want to repeat it. Where do you want to repeat it? On that next slide shot. Feel yourself. Know exactly how you felt. Now, this may sound different or new to you, but think about this. The more you start to celebrate the small victories, all those small victories are going to equal the big victory. At the end of the day, the scoreboard doesn't matter. Have you overcome those obstacles? How do you feel about your performance? How do you define success? How do you define success? Knowing that everything you do impacts the team. You care about your team? Then take those steps to gain that positive self-talk to overcome the obstacles that are keeping you behind. Hopefully that makes a little sense, and I want you to think about that, because in my mind, obstacles are opportunities. They're opportunities to learn and grow, and overcoming those obstacles and managing the mind, I want you to practice them. I want you to be able to have a plan to handle them. And these are just some great ways that you can overcome those obstacles that are challenging you. Now, you did a great job in this session, and hopefully you enjoyed it. The challenge I always leave you here with, put it into practice. Don't just let it sit on that piece of paper. Don't let it just sit in the mind. When you go to practice tomorrow, or you go to practice later on this week, or you've got that competition, you are in a prime place and location to overcome the obstacles that aren't going to hinder you, because you've got power over the internals and can become that elite athlete you always wanted to. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this session from the Volley Academy. My name is Dr. Ed Garrett. I look forward to seeing you guys in further sessions. Peace out.